could you buy the bonnet, Lydia, if you don't think it's pretty?
I thought I might as well buy it. It's not. I shall pull it to pieces and see if I can make it up any better.
There are 2 or 3 much uglier in the shop.
One of the most sensible extracts says the beauty is often in the eye of the beholder. I consider it a thought worth pondering.
When Lydia and I prefer pondering to enjoying ourselves, Mary, we will think about it.
I think it should be very tolerable when I trim it with some prettier coloured satin.
I think that you just wanted to have another bandbox.
Lots, so what if I did?
Oh, my dear Mr. Bennet, did you hear the news? Netherfield Park has finally let it last.
Is it?
Oh, why yes, Miss Long has been here just a moment ago to tell me herself. Don't you want to know who has taken it?
You want to tell me, and I have no objection to hearing it.
A nice young gentleman of large fortune from the north of England.
What's his name?
Bingley.
Is he married or single?
Oh, single, my dear, to be sure. Nice young gentleman with a large fortune, about £4,000 to £5,000 a year. Oh, what a lovely thing for one of our girls.
Oh, Kitty and I have already heard your news from Matt Phillips at Meryton.
A man must wear a uniform or we can't see him at all. I remember a time when I used to fancy a red coat myself.
At heart, you still do, my dear.
If a young colonel with about £4,000 or £5,000 a year shall ask one of our girls, I shan't say no to him.
Lydia fancies Mr. Wickham above all the officers at Meryton, though I doubt if he has a private fortune.
Do you think I'd ask him about a thing like that? Anyway, he has his eye on my sister Elizabeth.
Are you going to finish it up upstairs?
Yes, bring the satin with you.
Mary, what I have to discuss with your father is of more interest to your elder sisters.
Then I shall return to my room for a little further study.
Now, my dear, what does Mr. Bingley's fortune have to do with Jane and Elizabeth?
My dear Mr. Bennet, how can you be so tiresome? You know I intend on him marrying one of them.
Well, you and the girls may go. You are just as handsome as any of them.
Oh,
Mr. Bingley may like you the best of the party.
Oh, my dear, you flatter me. I have had my fair share of beauty, but I can't pretend to be anything extraordinary and up at have 5 grown-up girls.
What a fine walk I've had. Oh, Jane, you should have come with me.
She had her needle work to finish.
Mamma's just told us that Netherfield is let.
So Charlotte Lucas told me this morning.
You didn't confide in your own mother.
Sir William Lucas and Lady Lucas have already called on Mr. Bingley. Charlotte says he has very pleasing manners.
Did you hear that, Mr. Bennet? If you do not call now, it would be impossible to do so.
Well, I dare say Mr. Bingley will be very happy to see you. I shall send a few lines by him to assure him my hearty consent of marrying whichever he chooses of my girls.
Now, Papa. Jane, will you come with me to my room? Mamma may feel she can talk more freely in our absence.
I insist upon you calling him immediately.
Well, then I shall throw in a good word for my little Lizzie.
You do nothing of the sort. You're always giving Lizzie the preference, but she's not a bit better than any of her other sisters. She's not a bit as good-looking as Jane or a bit as good-humoured as Lydia.
No.
But you're always giving her the preference.
Am I?
Oh, how you delight in vexing me. You have no consideration for my poor nerves.
You mistake me, my dear. Your nerves are my old friends. I've heard you mention them with consideration over these 20 years.
You don't know what I suffer.
But you will get over it, and see many young men of 4,000 a year come into the neighborhood. I hope to be undisturbed in my library.
Lady Lucas and Miss Charlotte Lucas, madam.
Show them in.
Yes, madam.
Lady Lucas. Hello. And Charlotte, how nice it is to see you. Please be seated.
We have a short time to stay.
Oh, don't say that. I was looking forward to a nice long chat.
I thought you'd be interested to know that we've called at Netherfield and our call has been returned.
Oh, so soon. How agreeable of him.
Very.
I had here to see Elizabeth. Miss Jane and Miss Elizabeth are coming downstairs.
Good day, Lady Lucas. Charlotte, I'm glad you came over.
And I.
Ambassadors to see you, Lady Lucas.
We're on our way to make other calls, my dear. Has Charlotte told you she's met Mr. Bingley?
Yes, and that he has asked her for the honour of the first dance when he gives his ball at Netherfield.
How nice for you, Charlotte.
Hey, it was only a gesture of kindness. He has not yet seen you, Jane.
Mr. Bennet hasn't called yet, but I hear Mr. Bingley is quite an agreeable man.
Oh, very agreeable. His sister, Miss Bingley, who is to keep house for him, is a very fine lady. Used to London society.
It should be pleasant to have him in the neighborhood. I heard he has a friend with him too, a Mr. Darcy.
Another young man.
Important to have an income of over £10,000 a year.
£10,000.
I thought him handsome, but with proud and disagreeable manners.
Why doesn't Mr. Bennet call?
Do not stress yourself, Mamma. No doubt we shall meet him at all of the assemblies.
I must prevail on him to call Mr. Bingley at once.
Indeed, you must. Come, Charlotte, we must be on our way.
Perhaps we can have that one of our walks tomorrow.
I shall be looking forward to it.
It's been a delightful chat. Good afternoon, ladies.
Good afternoon.
Why doesn't your father call? Oh, I know that Lady Lucas schemes on marrying her daughter to Mr. Bingley.
Nonsense, Mamma.
Lady Lucas is a selfish, designing woman who calls but to gloat. But fathers must call Mr. Bingley. My nurse will be so vexed if he does not.
You must calm down, Mamma.
My dear, I hope you have ordered a good dinner for tonight. I have reason to expect an addition to our family party.
Who do you mean? Unless... Did you invite Charlotte Lucas?
No, Mamma.
The person with whom I speak, I've never saw before in my life.
It is Mr. Bingley! You have called! Oh, how good of you! How unlucky. There hasn't been a fish beak caught today.
Jane, go fetch him. But if you've never saw him before, how do you know he's coming?
Well, it is from a person of whom I've never saw before in my life. If you will observe, I have a letter.
I didn't know you had a letter!
You gave me no chance to mention it earlier. It's from my cousin, Mr. Collins.
Pray do not speak of that odious man, Mr. Collins, indeed. Can't he wait till you're dead till he kicks us out of his house?
My dear, nothing we can do will stop Mr. Collins from inheriting Longbourn when I die.
I do think it is very ill-will to your children to not have your estate once you're dead.
It's the law, Mamma.
I cannot bear to think of it.
For one thing, he has received his ordination.
Oh, a clergyman.
Here is the letter. He says, I cannot be otherwise than concerned at being the means of injuring your amiable daughter,
I'm glad he realizes it.
and beg leave to apologize for it, as to assure you my readiness of making any possible amends.
If he plans on making amends, I shall not be the one to stop him.
I am impatient to see him.
And I'm impatient to see Mr. Bingley. Why do you remain so stubborn in the matter?
If it will relieve your poor nerves, my dear, I've already called upon the man.
You have, Papa!
Oh, how good of you!
Thank you, my dear.
This has been Papa's idea of a good joke on us all.
Did Colin never say a word about it until now?
And to let Mamma tell him all about Mr. Bingley.
Charlotte Lucas, Lady Lucas have no wit above my own girls. Mama, what do you think? We saw it from a window upstairs.
What are they talking about?
The carriage from Netherfield. It's stopping up front.
A young gentleman is getting out. It must be Mr. Bingley.
He has a fine coat.
And another gentleman is with him. And a lady.
Smooth down your hair, Lizzie.
Yes, Mamma.
Miss Bingley, and Mr. Darcy.
Show them in.
Yes,
sir. And tell Miss Mary that we have guests.
Yes,
Your sister has such a nice charm on guests. She's so very intelligent. Jane, remain composed as I am. Men do not like a woman with undue interest. Lydia, Kitty, tone down your voices and remember your manners. Jane, resume your knees to work. Men like a well-accomplished woman. And Lizzie, watch your sharp tongue.
Yes, Mama.
Good afternoon. May I present my wife? My daughters, Miss Mary, Miss Lydia, Miss Elizabeth, and Miss Jane.
It is a great pleasure. This is my sister, Miss Bingley, who has desired to make your acquaintance today.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Bingley.
And my friend, Mr. Darcy.
Won't you please be seated? So I hope the country is treating you nicely.
Oh, yes, indeed. Thanks to the excellent management of my sister. I'm looking forward to a pleasant stay.
I hope you do not leave in a hurry.
Whatever my brother does is done in a hurry.
Yes, if I should be off, I should probably be off in 5 minutes. However, I currently find the surroundings quite charming.
I can't stand the country. One moves in such limited society.
But people themselves alter so much that something new must be observed in them forever.
I know that I find the country not a bit better than the city. I mean, other than the shops in the city, the country is a great deal pleasanter. Won't you agree, Mr. Bingley?
Oh, yes, when I am in the country, I never wish to leave it.
And when he's in town, it's pretty much the same.
I can be equally happy in either.
And that's my idea of good character. But I think your friend over there disagrees in the matter.
Mamma, I think you quite mistook Mr. Darcy. He only meant there's not such a variety of people to be met with in the country as there is in town.
But I know that we have 4 and 20 families.
Do you know the officers stationed at Meryton, Mr. Bingley? La, what fun we have with them.
I remember a time when I fancied a red coat myself.
Indeed.
I understand you've met Miss Lucas, Mr. Bingley.
Yes, I have called upon the family.
Charlotte Lucas is a dear friend of ours.
Such a charming man, Sir William is. He is such a man of fashion and always has something to say to everybody. He's so gentle, so easy.
He certainly is.
And as I said, he always has something to say to everybody, and that is my idea of good character. But men who remain quiet and refuse to open their mouths are quite mistaken in that matter.
Charlotte was here just this afternoon. You missed seeing her.
Such a charming girl, Charlotte is. But it is a shame she's not handsome. She's so very plain.
Oh, she seems such a pleasant young woman.
Oh, yes, she is, but so very plain.
My dear, surely you can find another subject of more interest to our guests.
Lady Lucas herself has often commented on the beauty of my daughter Jane.
They are quite right.
My daughter Mary will be down in this moment. She's so very intelligent. She's always writing extracts and practicing the piano and just, oh, there she goes.
What fine weather we're having, Miss Bingley.
I find it so a little cool.
Maybe you're right.
Now, one of my purposes in calling here today was to invite you all to a ball, which is to be in Netherfield, a fortnight from now.
Oh, Kitty, did you hear that? I do hope you will invite some of the officers, Mr. Bingley.
Yes, if it will please you. Charlotte has offered me the first dance. Will you offer me the second?
Thank you, I will.
Such a charming amusement is for young people dancing. Won't you agree, Mr. Darcy?
Yes, and it has the advantage of being in vogue everywhere. Every savage can dance.
May I introduce my daughter, Miss Mary, Mr. Bingley, Miss Bingley, and Mr. Darcy.
I'm sorry I wasn't present when when you called. I've been reading.
Indeed.
One finds such comfort in a good volume of sensible thoughts.
Mary, tea for Mary, Jane. Mary is our smart daughter. She never said always reading.
What a delightful library you have at Pemberley.
It has been the work of many generations.
Lizzie too has a great interest in reading.
I am sure we have never read the same books, nor with the same feelings.
If you'll excuse us now, I believe you spoke of having tried to letter to your sister.
Yes.
Oh, Miss Darcy is such a dear girl. We all think the world of her. Do we not, Charles?
Oh, yes. I'm sure we'll have a pleasant stay here.
I said you think the world of Miss Darcy, Charles.
Of course, a nice child.
I do hope to come visit us soon again.
At the ball? You won't forget?
Be sure you don't forget.
I'm certain I shall not.
You have provided them with a topic of conversation for days to come.
Mr. Wickham. Kitty, did you hear that? Mr. Wickham is calling.
How many callers we have this afternoon. Show them in, Hill. Oh. Next time you come, you should take a stroll in our garden. It's quite small, but everybody says it's so very beautiful.
Oh, yes, I'm sure it is.
Mr. Wickham, have you met our guest, Miss Bingley, Mr. Bingley, and Mr. Darcy?
We bid you good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon.
Mr. Wickham, I leave you to the tender graces of the ladies while I retire to my library.
I am charmed, I assure you.
I shall continue with my extracts.
I call with an invitation from your sister, Mrs. Phillips.
Have you?
She would be pleased to have your daughters at home for dinner tonight, and perhaps a game of lottery tickets afterwards.
Oh, Marseille, we may go. So many of the officers will be there in the evening.
I do not know. We have our own guest coming this afternoon, Mr. Collins. He won't care to see us.
But we should be here to greet him.
But, Miss Elizabeth, I do wish, especially, that you would attend.
Thank you, but I think not.
I shall go. You can escort me there yourself.
I'll go too. Do say yes, Mama. Very well, but mind you, don't flirt with all the officers.
Oh, you know how we don't flirt.
Go get your shawls. I'll go see the cook about dinner.
We won't be a minute, Mr. Wickham.
I wish I had a new bonnet to wear.
Mr. Wickham, don't answer if you find the question objectionable, but did Mr. Darcy acknowledge your greeting just now?
He did not.
Thought him very rude.
Maybe we're mistaken. He seems a very polite gentleman, though rather silent.
Oh, Jane, you're too sweet. I thought him very disagreeable, as if it would hurt him to open his lips.
Are you much acquainted with Mr. Darcy?
As much as ever wished to be.
I have no right to give my opinion. I've known him too long and too well to be a fair judge.
You have?
My father was the steward of Pemberley, the Darcy estate, and the present Mr. Darcy's father had a deep attachment for me.
Then why does he ignore you?
The late Mr. Darcy was one of the best men that had ever breathed. However, his son is a very different sort of man.
His abominable pride is quite disgusting.
I was not intended for military life. In fact, I was brought up for the church.
Indeed.
I should have, at this time, been in the possession of a most valuable clerical living, had it pleased the gentleman we were speaking of just now.
You mean Mr. Darcy interfered?
The living was bequeathed to me by his father, but it was given elsewhere.
Good heavens.
How could his will be disregarded?
Mr. Darcy chose to doubt his father's intentions.
What could have induced him to behave so cruelly?
A thorough and determined dislike of me. A dislike of which I can only attribute to jealousy.
I never thought Mr. Darcy as bad as this.
How could Mr. Bingley be friendly with such a man?
Mr. Darcy can please when he chooses. And your sympathy is very comforting.
What could I do but sympathize?
Do you notice my new bonnet?
Most becoming, Miss William.
Come, let us be off.
I do hope to see you soon, Miss Elizabeth. And you as well, Miss Jane.
Thank you. Lizzie, what do you think of him?
Mr. Wickham?
No, Mr. Bingley.
Oh, what do you think of him? He never took his eyes from you.
I think he's exactly what a young man ought to be. Sensible, good-humored, lively, and I've never seen such a happy manner.
He is also handsome, which a young man ought to be if he possibly can.
Oh, Lizzie, I'm so flattered by his asking me for a dance. I didn't expect such a compliment.
And why not? Lizzie, what could be not more natural than his asking you? He couldn't help seeing how pretty you are.
Do you really think so?
You have my word for it. Then I give you leave to like him.
If only Mamma.
I know, dear, but we cannot change Mamma. She will always be the same.
Have the girls left yet?
Yes, Mamma.
What a charming man Mr. Bingley is. And did you see, Lizzie, how taken he is with our Jane?
I noticed.
And that Mr. Darcy, he paid little attention to you, Lizzie. Not that you should be depressed. There's no ill will to be disliked by him.
I agree.
No matter how large his fortune is, I detest him. He is a quite rude man.
Mr. William Collins, madam.
Oh, so soon. Lizzie, go fetch your father. Show him in. Let's hope my nerves will survive his visit.
Ladies.
Good afternoon, cousin.
Good afternoon. I trust I do not intrude upon your good lady by my visit.
Won't you please be seated?
I trust you had a pleasant journey.
Most pleasant indeed. I'm looking forward to the honor of meeting your other daughters, for I've heard much of their beauty.
Oh, why, thank you.
In the case of Miss Jane, fame has short of the truth.
Oh, that's what everybody says.
No doubt you will see them all soon, well disposed in marriage.
Oh, I do hope so, with all of my heart. But we've been in such an odd displacement. And things have settled so very oddly.
My dear, let us not go into that.
You allude perhaps to the entail of this estate.
Yes, I do. It is such a horrid thing that his own children shall not have an estate when he dies. And his...
Quite right. I was thinking.
Not that I blame you in this matter.
Believe me, my dear, I am very sensible to the hardship to my poor cousins. But I promise you I've come prepared to admire them.
Our daughter Lizzie will be down in this moment, but you said you enjoyed the country. How was it?
It was beautiful. I always enjoy a visit to the countryside.
Did you go through London?
Yes, my way in.
The shops there are so nice. I enjoy them a lot. But did you see Jane's needlework? It's very beautiful. She's very talented. And she's
May I present my second daughter, Lizzie?
I am honored.
Thank you. Mamma, may Jane and I oblige you by making sure that Mr. Collins' room is in readiness?
I would love it if you did.
As I said, I have come prepared to admire your daughters. My patroness, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, has condescended to advise me that a young clergyman like myself is in need of a wife.
Oh, Mr. Collins!
And it is my hope that a mistress for my home may be found here in London.
Is that what you meant by making amends?
It is, my dear cousin.
Well, as for the youngest girls, I cannot see to letting them get married yet. And Jane, in fact, might be engaged very soon.
Then in the point of seniority, Miss Elizabeth is next.
She's quite unattached.
A most charming young lady, but I am cautious of being forward and precipitate. At present, I will say no more, but perhaps we are better acquainted.
My dear Mr. Collins.
And now that I'm sure my welcome is cordial, I will instruct your man to bring my bags.
Did you hear that, Mr. Bennet? He wants to marry one of our girls.
I still have my hearing.
Oh, since Mr. Bingley is so taken with Jane, Lizzie's the next obvious choice.
Madam, you're as silly as your daughters.
How dare you call your daughters silly? They're quite intelligent, all of them.
Excuse me if I differ about the three youngest.
I'm sorry they don't have the sense of their mother.
Heaven forbid.
Can't believe it. Oh, two of my girls practically married.
Mr. Collins.
Ah, yes, I was lost in thought.
Lost in excellent choice of words.
Such beautiful flowers, Mr. Collins, would you agree?
Quite passable for a small garden. My home is separated by only a lane from Lady Catherine's beautiful estate. There's a veritable profusion of bloom.
Oh, Lady Catherine, quite an agreeable woman, I hear.
She is thought to be proud by many, but I've never seen anything but affability for her.
Your move, Mr. Collins.
You said Lady Catherine was a widow. Does she have any family?
One daughter.
Is she handsome?
Most charming young lady, but unfortunately of a sickly constitution.
Your move, Mr. Collins.
Has she been presented in court?
As I said, her indifferent state of health unhappily prevents that. But as I told Lady Catherine, the British court is deprived of one of its finest ornaments. She seemed quite happy with the idea.
You will observe, Mr. Collins, that I have your last king in a corner.
Ah, yes, a trivial game.
If you will excuse me, I shall spend a little time in my library.
I was wondering, Miss Bennet, if your daughters might gather here while I read from this enticing volume, Fordyce's Sermons.
Oh, how interesting. I'm sure they would love it, but I'm afraid they're all out. And as you know, Jane has been at Netherfield for a while.
Mr. Bingley has taken quite an interest.
Oh, yes. I'm hoping that he might propose soon.
In that case, might I have a word with Miss Elizabeth this afternoon?
Oh, I'm sure she would love to talk with you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bennet! Mr. Bennet!
No way!
You don't know what I suffer. You're not a mother.
Good morning, Miss Bennet.
Good morning, Charlotte. How are you?
I promised Papa I'd make some mince pies, and nothing would do but that I use the recipe your cook uses.
I'm sure Cook would be flattered. Oh, Lizzie, Mr. Collins will just speak with you in the garden. A little fresh air will do him good. I insist upon you speak with him immediately. Yes, Mamma. And I shall see to Cook about the recipe for you, Charlotte. Don't hurry away, Charlotte. I must talk with you about the ball at Netherfield.
Everyone is saying how much attention Mr. Bingley paid to Jane.
Dean did seem as if he admired her.
Is Jane happy?
Very very happy. But you know Jane, so composed that a man could never guess her real feelings.
It is a mistake for a woman to conceal her affections with too much skill. Mr. Bingley likes your sister undoubtedly, but he may never do more than like if she does not encourage him.
But she does encourage him, as much as her nature will allow. If a woman is partial to a man, then he must find it out.
In 9 cases out of 10, a woman had better show more affection than she feels. The time to fall in love is after she's shown him.
Not Jane. Her love knows no design.
You did, in fact, you were at the ball, Lizzie.
That hateful Mr. Darcy, I overheard him talking about me.
You did? Oh, Lizzie.
Mr. Bingley suggested that he ask me to dance, and our fine Mr. Darcy said, she is tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me.
Oh, poor Eliza.
Indeed, if he were to like me, I would be quite put out.
Oh, hello, Mary. Reading again?
Hello, Charlotte.
In a way, Mr. Darcy's pride is understandable. A fine young man with family, fortune, and everything in his favor has a right to be proud.
Indeed, if I could forgive his pride if he had not mortified mine.
Pride is a very common failing, I believe. By all I've ever read, I'm convinced the human nature is practically born to it. Indeed, there are few of us who do not cherish a feeling of self-complacency on the score of some quality or other, real or imaginary.
Oh, yes, indeed. I must get the recipe from your mother.
Vanity and pride are different things. Though they are often used simultaneously, a person can be proud without being vain.
Oh, yes. I'll see you again before I go.
Please do.
Pride relates more to our opinion of ourselves. Vanity to what we want others to think of us.
I know you are clever, Mary.
The idle chatter of my sisters is no appeal for me.
We met Mr. Wickham in front of the library and he offered to escort us home.
You can imagine how the other girls envied us.
La, what fun to have everybody looking at us.
I fear Miss Elizabeth does not envy you overmuch. In vain, I've entreated upon her to take a walk with me.
Indeed, sir. I have not refused you from intent, but only because I was occupied at the time.
I am never too busy to go walking with a handsome man in a red coat.
Come, we must tell Mama the news from Meryton.
Mamma loves a bit of gossip.
Won't you sit down, Mr. Wickham?
No, I must be on my way.
We missed you at the Netherfield ball.
Unfortunately, business in the city took me away just the time.
I understand.
Not that I wish to avoid Mr. Darcy. It's the other way around.
Of course. But I do have a mind to walk with you a little ways since you were teasing me about refusing your invitations.
I shall be honored.
We expect Jane back from Netherfield this morning, and Mamma has been begging me to talk with my cousin, Mr. Collins.
You can do that much later.
Very, very much later. He has recently been given a parish by Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
Her daughter, Miss de Bourgh, will have a very large fortune, and it is expected that she and Mr. Darcy will marry someday.
I'm pleased to hear it. From what I've heard of Lady Catherine, any daughter of hers is not likely to make a man happy.
Not likely.
Let's take a shortcut through the garden.
Yes, let us.
Miss Jane is back. Mr. Bingley, his sister, and Mr. Darcy.
Oh, tell her I will see her when the guests are gone.
Sit down, my dear Caroline. And you too. I shall let Mamma know you've been kind enough to drive me home.
Don't disturb her if she's occupied. We can't stay long.
Mamma will want to thank you for your kindness to me.
Jane Bennet is really a very sweet girl.
She is all of that.
I wish with all my heart that she were well settled, but with such a mother and such a low connections, I'm afraid there's just no chance of it.
If she had no connections, I would not think one jot less of her.
Nevertheless, how can she expect to marry a man of any consideration in the world?
You're right, Mr. Darcy. Jane was quite a success at our ball, but I observed that Elizabeth Bennet was not very much of an attraction to you.
Why do you say that?
You made no effort to dance with her.
I detest dancing.
Why so thoughtful, Mr. Darcy?
No reason at all.
Oh, this must be serious.
I was thinking of the very great pleasure which a pair of fine eyes on the face of a pretty woman can bestow.
Oh, Mr. Darcy, what lady has the credit of inspiring such reflections?
Miss Elizabeth Bennet.
I am astonished. When am I to wish you joy?
A lady's imagination is very wondrous. It jumps from admiration to love and from love to matrimony in a moment.
You'll have a charming mother-in-law.
You know I'm not serious.
I hope you give your mother-in-law a few hints as to the advantage of holding her tongue. And if you can, do you cure the younger girls of running after the officers? Which one is responsible for that?
I couldn't say.
Oh, Miss Bingley and my dear sirs. How kind you have been to Jane.
The kindness was on Jane's side.
We found her very pleasant company.
Thank you.
Are you ready to return now, Charles?
So soon?
Jane, my love, didn't Mr. Bingley want to help wish a desire to see our garden?
I did, madam. Will you show it to me, Miss Jane?
Of course you will. And Miss Bingley and Mr. Darcy and I shall have a nice chat in here.
Do you mind if I see the garden too?
By all means. And you, Mr. Darcy?
Thank you, I shall remain here.
Wait for me, Charles! Charles! You're a great reader, Mr. Darcy.
Yes, madam.
Quite a nice stay, isn't it?
It was.
Are you planning to stay long at Netherfield?
I cannot say.
Oh. Very well, I shall leave you to your book.
Certainly, madam.
Good morning, Mr. Darcy.
Good morning, Miss Elizabeth. We have brought Miss Jane home.
Yes, I've just seen her, and I'm sure she had a most delightful time.
Quite.
It is your turn to say something now, Mr. Darcy. You might make a remark about the weather.
Consider it made.
One must speak a little, you know.
And in some cases, the less said, the better.
Nevertheless, I shall introduce the next topic. I've recently had a short walk with a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Wickham.
Mr. Wickham has a way of making friends. Whether he may be equally capable of retaining them is less certain.
But he has been so unlucky as to lose your friendship, Mr. Darcy, and through no fault of his own.
Miss Bennet, do not judge my character when you know so little about me.
I have seen and heard enough.
All my life I have tried to avoid weakness of any kind.
Such as vanity and pride?
Vanity is a weakness indeed. But pride, that is a different matter.
I suppose you allow yourself to be blinded by prejudice.
I hope not. Do you, Miss Elizabeth?
I certainly not.
Then let us drop the subject for the moment.
If I'm ever to get the mince pies baked, I must be on my way.
Miss Lucas?
Oh, hello, Mr. Darcy.
Charlotte was on her way home to do some baking. I know I never let my girls in the kitchen, but I'm sure you know that Mother knows what's best for you, Charlotte.
Charlotte is very clever and I envy her.
Thank you, dear Lizzie. Goodbye, Miss Bennet and Mr. Darcy.
Such a sweet-natured girl, Lizzie is.
A delightful garden. Small, but we enjoy it.
I'm sorry we must leave so soon.
I wish you will come again. Thank you.
You may depend on it.
Jane really did enjoy her visit with you.
We enjoyed having her.
smiled at you. I can't tell Mama everything. Lizzie, have you spoken with Mr. Collins yet?
Not yet.
Then do so immediately.
Mrs. Bennet, I was beginning to think you'd forgotten my request.
Oh, no, I was just reminding Lizzie at this moment. Lizzie?
Please, Mama, I beg of you to stay. Mr. Collins cannot have anything to say that anybody need not hear.
Such modesty.
Oh, nonsense. You just listen.
Please, Mama.
I insist upon you hearing what he has to tell you. Come, Daisy.
Believe me, my dear Miss Elizabeth, your modesty adds to your other perfections. You would have been less amiable in my eyes had there not been this little unwillingness.
Oh.
Believe me, I have your respected mother's permission for this address.
You have?
Almost as soon as I entered this home, I singled you out as the companion of my future life. But before I let my feelings run away with me, let me state my reasons for coming here expressly to select one. First, it is the duty of the clergyman to set the example of matrimony in his parish. Secondly, it would add greatly to my happiness. And thirdly, it is the particular advice and recommendation of my patroness, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, who has twice condescended to give me her advice, unasked, that the woman I choose should be a gentlewoman, a kind, active, useful sort of person, not brought up high, but able to make a small income go a long ways. I know that when your mother dies, all that will be left to you is £1,000 4%, and I promise you I will never reproach you on that score. But now, before I must let you know the violence of my affection.
Oh! Mr. Collins, you are too hasty. I thank you for your generous offer, but I must decline it.
Come now, I know it is the usual thing for a woman to act embarrassed and unwilling, when all the time her heart is fluttering with wild passion.
Upon my word, sir, you are a hard man to discourage.
Then I shall lead you to the altar ere long.
But I was perfectly serious in my refusal. You cannot make me happy, and I am the last woman in the world who would make you sue. Why your friend Lady Catherine should know me, I'm sure she would find me in every respect unqualified for the situation.
It is your wish to increase my love by suspense, as most elegant females do. But I beg of you, hold me off no longer. Confess your love for me.
Can I speak plainer, Mr. Collins? I am no elegant female out to plague you. I'm a rational creature, speaking from the truth of my heart.
My dear Miss Elizabeth, most adorable of creatures, be mine!
Really, Mr. Collins, you are mad, quite mad.
Miss Elizabeth!
Congratulations to the both of you. Oh, my dear Mr. Collins. Oh, goodness. Lizzie, come here. No, congratulations, Mama. I declined Mr. Collins' generous offer. Lizzie, come back here this moment.
She seems very definite.
She's a foolish, headstrong girl. She shall be brought to reason.
Foolish, headstrong.
She's just like her father in this manner. She's so stubborn.
Stubborn too. Perhaps if she has such defects as temper, it would be better not to force her into accepting me.
Oh, no, you misunderstood me. She's only stubborn in manners such as this, and everything else is most light-hearted girl that's ever lived.
Some other time, Miss Bennet.
What? Now?
We are in an uproar. Mr. Collins and Miss Lizzie might not wed.
What are you talking about?
Lizzie says she'll have Mr. Collins, and Mr. Collins begins to say she'll have Lizzie.
Where is Elizabeth?
She's in the garden.
Elizabeth, come here directly.
Tell her she must marry Mr. Collins.
Yes, Father.
I understand Mr. Collins has made you an offer of marriage.
He has. Tell her she must marry him or she'll never speak to her ever again.
Elizabeth, an unhappy alternative is before you. From this day forward, you will be a stranger to one of your parents. Your mother will never see you again if you do not marry Mr. Collins, and I will never see you again if you do.
for my poor nerves.
Yes, Mama. I mean, no, Mama.
You of all people have to understand my suffering. But Mr. Collins has been acting so strangely ever since he returned from Lady Luke's yesterday. I'm afraid Charlotte has a grasp on him.
Charlotte is an artful.
She is 27 years of age. She must be desperate. Oh, but you have no consideration for what I do for you. Oh, here comes your sister, as unconcerned as ever.
Please, Ma, do not continue to play Lizzie.
I tell you, Miss Lizzie, if you go around refusing every offer of marriage, you will never have a husband.
Do I seem worried?
I shall not be able to keep you when your father is dead.
Mamma, don't you think you've talked about it enough? If Miss Lizzie does not care for Mr. Collins, then that's just the end of it.
But at least I can find happiness that you have found favour in Mr. Bingley.
Now you're embarrassing Jane.
I know hers has been delivered from Netherfield, madam.
For me.
For Miss Jane.
Thank you, Hill.
Read it out loud. Ooh, such fine paper. Must be from Miss Bingley.
It is from Miss Bingley. If you'll excuse me, I shall retire to my room.
Without reading the letter?
Jane, is it bad news?
It is surprising news.
Real surprise.
The Bingleys have taken leave of Netherfield and have left my town.
They have gone.
Without any intention of coming back again. Mr. Darcy remains to close on the house for his friend.
I can't believe it.
It's all Mr. Darcy's doing, I'll warrant.
But why should he interfere?
If your nose wasn't always buried in a book, you'd realize how proud he is. He considers our Jane not rich or grand enough for Mr. Bingley.
Miss Bingley writes that she is sorry she could not call to bid me farewell and wishes we may meet again.
Oh, does she?
She hints that there is an attachment between Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy's young sister.
I don't believe it. No one who has seen you two together can doubt his affections for you. That too is Mr. Darcy's plan, to wed his sister to Miss Bingley.
Come now, Jane. Let's go to your room and I shall put cold compressions on your forehead.
Please, Mamma, I'd rather be alone.
Perhaps I can console her with some of my extras.
Mr. Darcy's at the back of this, I'm sure of it.
He wouldn't dare.
He has! Him and Miss Bingley between them.
Mamma, the most exciting thing!
The regiment has been ordered to Brighton! At last, one may take a walk to Meryton without stumbling on an officer.
How can you joke about it? Oh, Kitty. I remember when Colonel Miller's regiment left. I was so heartbroken I cried for 2 days.
How is it that you are so cheerful, Lydia?
She has nothing to cry about. But maybe your father will let us go to Brighton for the summer.
I would never agree. Come, Lydia, how is it you're bursting with?
Colonel Foster's wife has invited me to go with her on a visit.
Who has she?
She said a little sea air is just what I needed.
It would do me a great deal of good too.
But it was me she invited.
I don't understand why Miss Foyces would invite me as well as Lydia. I'm 2 years older.
Come now, dry your eyes and help me look over my things. I shall need at least 2 new bonnets.
Oh, that's new blue one you'd have looked darling at first, but with a bit more lace. Okay, let's go.
What is all that to do about this time?
The regiment has been ordered to Brighton. Well, Lydia has been invited to stay at the Foysters for a while.
I must have just yards and yards of lace.
I don't remember hearing anyone ask my permission for this trip.
Oh, please, Papa, do not let her go.
Why not?
Miss Forster is so young for a chaperone, and there will be so many officers at Brighton.
Lydia will never be happy until she has made a spectacle of herself in a place or another. And we cannot expect her to do it with such little expense or inconvenience to the family under the present circumstances.
But her manner is so unguarded and imprudent.
I think you exaggerate, my dear. Foolish she undoubtedly is, but scarcely out of hand.
She is already a determined little flirt.
Lydia will never be happy until she does go. Connor Forster is a sensible man and will keep her out of any real mischief.
I sincerely hope so.
I will give her my consent now so that she does not bother asking me for it later.
Charlotte! And Mr. Collins, what were you doing in the garden?
Miss Charlotte has kindly consented to return with me. I've been calling on Sir William and Lady Nicholas.
I had something very important to speak with you about, Miss.
Oh, I hope it is good news. We've had so much of the other kind.
May I speak with your father, Miss Elizabeth?
Yes, Papa went out that way a minute ago. No, how nice of you, Charlotte, to pass a little time with Mr. Collins in the garden. I'm more obliged to you than I can say.
Why should I not? Mr. Collins and I are engaged to be married.
Engaged? To Mr. Collins? Impossible!
Not at all.
I'm sorry. I wish you every happiness.
I'm not unaware, Lizzie, that Mr. Collins asked you first to marry him.
I am sure he did it out of duty.
I'm not romantic, you know. I ask only a comfortable home, and I'm convinced that my chances of happiness with Mr. Collins is as good as most people can hope for.
Oh, Charlotte, I sincerely do hope you'll be happy.
Oh, thank you. Will you come visit me once I'm married? Promise me, Elizabeth.
I promise.
Oh, thank you. I must see how your mother takes the news. Charlotte, how good to see you. This bonnet is quite passable, but Mama and I are going shopping for more. And some new gowns. She's persuaded Jane to come along. Tell them I'll be waiting out here.
Lydia tells me you're going shopping.
I must do something.
You know how I feel for you, Jane.
Mama's determined now that I should pay a visit to Aunt Gardner in London.
Well, why don't you? The change would do a world of good.
But Mama's plan is that I should write to Caroline Bingley from there, and then her and her brother would call on me.
How like Mama.
What am I going to do, Lizzie? My heart is broken.
Dear Jane.
It'll be all right. I'll forget him, and then we'll all be as we were before.
Oh, Jane. I feel as if I have never done you justice or loved you as you deserve.
No.
You wish the world as good as you are, but the more I see of the world, the more I'm dissatisfied with it. And now Charlotte's engagement is unaccountable.
No, Lizzie. You must remember that Charlotte is one of a large family with little fortune. She may feel something like regard and esteem for our cousin.
I can't bring myself to think so. Mr. Collins is a conceited, pompous, narrow-minded, silly man, and Charlotte knows that as well as we do.
I tell you, Mr. Bennett, I can't believe Charlotte Lucas will ever be the mistress of this house.
Lydia's waiting in the garden, Mama.
Okay, come, Jane. But I tell you what, she'll have to be dead in my grave before she takes over this estate.
My dear, don't give way to such gloomy thoughts. Let us hope for better ones. Let us flatter ourselves that I may outlive you. So, Elizabeth, your sister Jane is crossed in love, I find.
Oh, Papa, don't you take anything seriously.
I found out a long time ago that for a mere man to survive in a household of women is to see the amusing side of things.
You're not laughing at Jane!
No, my dear, I am not. But it is a comfort to think that what may ever befall of any of you, you have an affectionate mother who will always make the best of it.
Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy.
Oh, show him in.
Yes, Miss Elizabeth.
am glad to find you alone, Miss Elizabeth.
Indeed. Your friends left Netherfield quite suddenly.
I have seen to the closing of the house for them.
And I have heard it is not likely for Mr. Bingley to return again.
It is probable that he will spend very little of his time there in the future.
Indeed.
I have struggled in vain. It will not do. My feelings won't be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you.
Mr. Darcy!
My attachment is so strong that in spite of all my endeavors, I find it impossible to conquer my feelings for you.
You mean you've tried not to love me, Mr. Darcy?
I realize that there is a great difference in our connections and that there are great disadvantages to marrying into a family such as yours, but nevertheless, I hope that you may accept my hand.
How dare you speak of my family in that way?
It is because I love you, Miss Elizabeth, that I dare speak at all, that I dare to offend the society of which I am a part.
You are insufferable, Mr. Darcy, to speak of love and offense in the same breath.
And this is the only reply which I may expect?
It is more than you deserve. Do you think I would ever marry a man who liked me against his will or against his reason? Do you think any consideration would tempt me to accept the man who has been the means of ruining the happiness of my sister?
I do not understand you.
You dare not understand me, Mr. Darcy. Can you deny that you have separated Jane and Mr. Bingley?
I?
Can you deny that you have done it?
I have no wish to deny that I did everything in my power to separate Mr. Bingley from your sister. Towards him, I have been kinder than towards myself.
Oh, they love each other, Mr. Bingley. What right have you to take their happiness into your own hands? You speak of love. What can you know of love?
And is this your opinion of me?
It is.
Well, then I thank you for explaining so fully. My faults, according to this calculation, are heavy indeed.
They are.
But perhaps these offenses might have been overlooked had not your pride been hurt.
My pride?
Was it not pride that prohibited you from accepting my honest confessions of the reasons why I could not ask you sooner to be my wife?
You could have not made me the offer in any possible way that would have tempted me to accept it. You were the last man in the world who I could ever be prevailed upon to marry. It is not only your unfeeling disregard of Jane's happiness, but I also know you to be false to your obligations on which your family loyalty impose on you.
You refer perhaps to Mr. Wickham?
Oh, I do.
Well, then forgive me for having taken up so much of your time and accept my best wishes for your happiness.
Why doesn't she come?
It seems an age since Lizzie went to Charlotte's.
6 whole weeks. Imagine having to listen to Mr. Collins that long.
In my opinion, Mr. Collins has very erudite thoughts.
I don't think Mama will ever quite forgive Lizzie for not marrying him.
Marriage isn't the only end in life.
It's the best beginning that I know of. I wish I were at Brighton with Lydia.
Lydia is turning out to be a silly, empty-headed flirt.
But what a time she must be having. Mr. Wickham escorting her to all the balls. And all I do is sit and wait for people to get home. Come now, Jane. Press vomit on this tea. You don't exert yourself.
Not an invalid, Mama.
I don't know, Jane Cotton. I was thinking that you stay there. Oh, you haven't got a spot of colour on your cheeks.
And Gardner was very kind and I feel perfectly fit. I do.
Men, as one wise person once observed, are at the bottom of all our troubles. Or did he say women?
Kitty! Has the postman come? It's been a while since I got a letter from your sister, Lydia. Lydia was very well, Mama, according to my last letter. Here comes Papa's carriage now.
I will get no more reading done this afternoon.
I'm sure Lizzie will tell your father all the news before you can get a whisper of it. That cat be much news from a visit with Mr. and Miss Collins.
Mama! And dear Jane and Kitty and Mary. How good it is to be home again.
We are glad you have come back, Lizzie.
Oh, we are. You must tell us everything.
Let me catch my breath first.
The presence of a mere man may not still the clatter of female tongues. I feel you will talk more freely without me.
How does Charlotte look? Does she seem happy? Jane, you look tired.
It's nothing. I had a delightful time in London.
Did Mr. Bingley call to see you?
No, his sister Caroline called.
Once. 1 15-minute call.
But it's your news we're anxious to hear.
Did you see any good-looking men to flirt with?
Charlotte is very happy and living very comfortably.
How is Charlotte as a manager? What kind of table does she keep?
A very nice one.
But we have tired your sister long enough. You just go outside to get some sun back on your cheeks.
Please, Mama, I'd rather stay inside and talk with Lizzie.
Nonsense! You will get colour back on your face.
Mama's quite right, Jane. Though,
Kitty, go upstairs with your sister Mary and study for a bit. I shall see to Jane's chair.
Yes, Mama.
Tell me all about it. Did you see any of Mr. Darcy?
quite often at Lady Catherine's.
Did he make any reference to that strange proposal of his?
None at all, but he did seem to put himself out to be more agreeable.
Oh, Lizzie, do you really think you did right?
You don't blame me for refusing him.
Oh, no! To be thwarted in love is a terrible thing.
Oh, Jane, always thinking of somebody else. Tell me about your trip to London.
Caroline called on me once. I'll admit I've been entirely deceived in her regard for me.
I suspected as much.
She told me that there's an attachment with Mr. Bingley and Miss Darcy, and that they expect an announcement any day now.
I don't believe it. He loves you, Jane. I'm sure.
I'm quite resigned to it now. At least I try to be. But I can't help it, Lizzie. I still love him.
Dear Jane.
Your chair's ready for you, but it's a bit chilly outside, so you need to go get your wool wrap.
I left it upstairs, Mama.
Lizzie will get it for you.
Mama, I'm not an invalid.
So what do you make of your sister's condition?
I'm worried about her health.
I am too. At this rate, I'm afraid she might die of a broken heart.
Perhaps.
So, how was your...
Lady Lucas, madam.
show her in. Bet she's here to look the place over for Charlotte so she can steal the estate.
She probably wants to hear of Charlotte as well, Mama.
Oh, Lady Lucas!
Elizabeth, I'm so glad to see you home again. How did you leave my Lydia and her good husband?
In the best of health.
It's such a comfort having a daughter well married. You can't know how happy I am.
What is keeping Jane?
What a pity that young Mr. Bingley doesn't return. Lydia's enjoying herself at Brighton, I trust.
She is.
It's nice to see you, Lady Lucas.
Jane, you're looking so pale.
Oh, it is nothing. It's just a slight indisposition.
I hope Lydia's not seeing too much of that Mr. Wickham at Brighton. I hear he left considerable gaming debts behind him at Meryton.
Gaming debts?
His pleasant countenance seems to have deceived a great many people. They say he is in debt to every tradesman in the place.
Can this be true? I don't believe it.
Neither do I.
You know, I have it on good authority that Mr. Darcy refused to give him a living in church due to his unreliable character.
Really?
I assure you it's the truth.
But Mr. Wickham said not for the world would he injure Mr. Darcy's reputation.
It seems that was exactly the method he used to ruin it.
Oh dear, Mr. Wickham's deceived us, Lizzie.
I can scarcely believe it.
Why? Thank you for your kind words from Charlotte.
You're most welcome.
Walk with me to my carriage, Miss Bennet. I'm sure a little fresh air may do you good.
You're right. Jane, how could I have thought that Mr. Darcy ill-used Mr. Wickham when I didn't know the facts? We were so wrong about him, Lizzie. I'm ashamed. I, who prided myself on being a great judge of character. Lizzie, if I didn't know you dislike him so much, I'd almost say you're in love. In love? With Mr. Darcy? Never. It is possible to deceive one's heart for a little while. He separated you from Mr. Bingley. I could never forgive him for that. I will be upset if I don't go outside. I'm sorry if I offended you.
You could never do that to Jane.
Did you see the way she looked at my settee? Oh, she's just checking this place over for Charlotte when she moves in.
You imagine things, Mamma.
Before you know to give way over trifles, madam, I have some news of real import.
Is it from Lydia?
It's an express from Colonel Forster in Brighton.
It's Lydia.
She has run off with Mr. Wickham.
Oh, Lydia's married! Oh, I'm so happy! Come. Is there anything else?
Well, from a note that Lydia left, it is evident that she expected to be married at once. But from a note that she left, from what Colonel Forster could find out, no marriage has taken place.
No marriage?
What is it?
Lydia has run off and eloped with Mr. Wickham, and he has no intentions of marrying her.
Oh, Lydia! Oh, poor Mamma!
Colonel Forster believes that they were headed for London. I will head for there at once. Your Uncle Gardner may be able to help me trace them.
Oh, that villain is Wickham! Why did the Forsters keep an eye on her?
Nobody could watch Lydia all the time, Mamma.
Oh, but now your father will go and find Mr. Wickham, and he shall die, and we shall be turned out of our house all because you wouldn't marry Mr. Collins! Mamma!
Why don't you go lie down in your bed upstairs, Mamma?
Lydia!
Miss Elizabeth, Mr. Darcy is here to see you.
Mr. Darcy, show him in.
Miss Elizabeth?
How do you do, Mr. Darcy? I'm surprised to see you here.
Are you not also a little happy to see me, Miss Elizabeth?
Happy? Mr. Darcy, I find it hard to be happy.
What is the matter, Miss Elizabeth?
Mr. Darcy,
Shall I get you a glass of wine?
please. There is nothing the matter. I'm only distressed by some dreadful news.
Well, try to calm yourself. I was riding back to London after my visit with Lady Catherine. How fortunate it is that I stopped in here.
It is.
If you will let me be of some service to you.
There is nothing you can do for us now. Lydia has run off and eloped with Mr. Wickham. You know him too well to doubt the rest.
Wickham?
She has no money, no connections, nothing that can tempt him to marry her.
Now you know his true character.
Mr. Darcy, have I wronged you in regard to him?
I am grieved, shocked. But is it certain, absolutely certain?
Yes.
And what is being done to recover her?
My father's going to London, but there's nothing anybody can do for us now. We're in disgrace.
Control your tears, please, Miss Elizabeth.
Such humiliation.
I wish that I could say or do something to ease you in your distress.
Lydia's lost forever.
Don't give up all hope, Miss Elizabeth. Now, I must ask you to excuse me.
going?
To London, immediately.
Oh, Mr. Darcy, can you ever forgive me for thinking ill of you?
I will try.
Oh, Darcy. Darcy.
Is your mother any better this morning?
Very little. She claims over and over again her heart is broken.
I blame myself for this, for I could find no trace of Lydia or Wickham in London.
You mustn't be too severe on yourself, Papa.
No, Lizzie. For once, let me feel that I am to blame. I should have taken your advice and never let Lydia go to Brighton.
It is too late for that now.
Jane has persuaded Mama to come downstairs for a little while.
Is she still dressing?
Yes, although she declares she is too weak to stand.
Your mother knows how to give such elegance to misfortune. Maybe one day I shall do the same when Kitty runs away.
Oh, Papa, I'm not going to run away. If I were to go to Brighton, I would behave better than Lydia.
You go to Brighton. I have at least learned to be cautious, and you will feel the effects of it. Now, don't get yourself unhappy. If you are a good girl for the next 10 years, I may take you to the theater at the end of them.
Such a dreadful state I am in. Such trembling. Oh, such shaking. How could your father not find a trace of them in London? You must try to think of something else, Mama. Such a pounding at my head. An aching at my side. Oh, my heart. Oh, Lydia.
Kitty is in tears.
We shall all float away if any more tears are shed.
This is the most unfortunate affair and will probably be much talked of.
Oh, Lydia. Lydia.
We must stem the tide of malice and pour into the wounded bosoms of each other the balm of sisterly consolation. Unhappy as this must be for Lydia, we must not shrink from the useful lesson that loss of virtue in a female is irretrievable.
Maybe you should get some fresh air.
A woman's reputation is no less brittle than it is authentic. Please keep quiet. She cannot be too guarded from her behavior towards undeserving sex.
Would you like a cup of tea, Mama?
Tea? When my heart is broken, tell cook I like 2 spoons of sugar.
It was nice and hot, Madam, and will do well. Thank you.
I do not know how to take this tea when my heart is so broken.
Yes. I thought that you might like to hear the Netherfield is occupied again.
What?
So the housekeeper informed me Mr. Bingley is expected to be back this morning.
Did you hear that, Jane? Not that I care. I don't want to see that mannequin.
Your tea is getting cold, Mama.
But if he wants to come back to his estate, I cannot be the one to stop him.
Do you need sugar?
And as soon as he comes back, your father will come talk to him immediately. It's positive that he is coming back.
Surely, Mama, Mr. Bingley can return to his own house without all of this speculation.
What ungrateful daughters I have! I've been trying to get you men, and then so you repay me!
I didn't mean to distress you, Mama, but I will not be forced upon Mr. Bingley again.
Such news in the state I am in!
Shall I help you to your room?
No! Let me suffer alone!
he comes at all.
I cannot stand to hear him so perpetually talked about. Mamma means well. She doesn't know. No one knows.
I wish I could see some happiness for the both of us.
Why, Lizzie, what's wrong?
Can't seem to get him out of my mind.
Mr. Darcy!
He no longer cares for me, and I don't know if I love or hate him more.
Oh, Lizzie, how unfortunate we all are.
Jane! Lizzie! Congratulate me! I'm married!
Lydia!
Allow me to present Mrs. Wickham.
Papa went to London, but we didn't...
It was not expected that he could find us. Mama! I'm married!
Your beautiful son-in-law, madam, and your sir.
Oh, dear Lydia! I'm so happy. Oh, you must tell me everything about your dress and you must figure out how much you will pay for her.
Good gracious, when I went away I had no more idea of being married when I came back again, but I thought it would be good fun if I was.
Well, I'm glad you find such pleasure in the situation. Wickham, a word with you.
Yes, sir.
Do the people hereabouts know I'm married?
How can they when we ourselves have just found out?
I was afraid they might not. We passed Lady Lucas's carriage and I was determined that she would know it. So I took off my glove and let my hand rest on the side of our carriage so that she might see my ring. Lydia, you didn't. And then I bowed and smiled like anything.
How could you?
Your bonnet is the prettiest I've ever seen.
That color is far too gay.
I must go tell Hill to prepare the south chambers for you and your husband. Woo! Oh, she must be so excited to hear this news.
I'll go too. I want to see Hill's face when she hears the news.
Mary, could you tell Hill too?
I must tell Mama about my wedding. I hope it passed off well. Aren't you curious to know how it was managed? No. You're both so strange. But I must tell you how it went off. My uncle and aunt and I went together to the church, and Mr. Wickham and Mr. Darcy met us there.
Mr. Darcy?
Oh, yes. Was I surprised when he walked in? He was the one who found us. Mr. Darcy found you.
What else did Mr. Darcy do?
Settled Mr. Wickham's debts. A few £1,000 here and there. Oh! And then he very kindly settled £1,000 on me and purchased a commission for my dear Mr. Wickham in Newcastle. Newcastle? You'll be living quite far from here. Yes, but you must all visit, and I can arrange balls for you. I must ask Mama at once.
Jane! That Mr. Darcy should have done all this for our family. The humiliation is more than I can bear.
Oh, Lizzie, he's done it for you.
I can't bring myself to believe it.
You must.
I'm humble, and I'm proud of him.
I'm afraid I interrupt sisterly confidences.
You do.
But it does not follow that the interruption must be unwelcome.
I would be sorry indeed if it were. We were always good friends, and now we are better.
I understand you saw something in Mr. Darcy in town.
I did. He's in good health and very busy.
Perhaps preparing for his marriage to Mr. Burke.
I wouldn't doubt that. His Aunt Catherine has her heart set on announcing that engagement.
Surely.
I bid you good day, my sisters.
What Wickham has done in the past is over, Lizzie. You must try to forget it.
Come now, Mary, you must write down what I tell you for the shopping list.
Yes, Mama.
Hurry! Hurry! My goodness. Okay. First we shall get some calico. I wish I were ordering my wedding clothes. Some muslin. Let me see. Cambric.
Mr. Charles Bingley, madam.
Oh my goodness, so soon. Show him in. Jane, fully wearing a new frock, but it is very well. You're looking very pretty. Mary, remember to smile and be very welcoming. And Kitty and Lizzie, remember your manners.
I hope you have no objections to this early call, madam.
Oh, objections, dear me, no. Please be seated.
Thank you.
It has been such a long time since you last visited us.
Yes, very long.
I was beginning to fear you might never come back.
Was your trip in London pleasant?
Oh yes, very pleasant.
I wish that you have come to dinner with us very soon.
Oh, I shall be pleased.
I shall finish my notes upstairs, Mama.
Very well. What is the matter, Mama? Just come on, this is fine. Lizzie, come on, there's a picture upstairs.
Is this necessary?
It is most necessary now if you would excuse us.
I was about to ask if I may have the company of Jane for a stroll in the garden.
Oh, by all means. Did you see the way he smiled at her?
I warn you about jumping to conclusions again, Mama.
Oh, I promise that they shall be wet yet.
Lady Catherine Barrett, madam.
Oh, my goodness.
Show her in.
She must be here to see you, Lizzie.
That's so strange. We thoroughly dislike each other.
I hope you're well, Miss Bennet. This lady, I suppose, is your mother.
She is.
And that, I suppose, is one of your sisters.
She's the second to the youngest. My youngest has just recently been married, and my eldest is somewhere about the rounds of the young man, who I think we possibly have to meet very soon.
Miss Bennet, I desire to speak with you alone.
Very well, Lady Catherine.
If there's anything I can do to make your stay more welcoming.
Alone.
Oh, very well, come, Kitty.
You do understand, of course, Miss Bennet, why I've come here today.
Indeed, I do not, madam.
However insincere you choose to be, I shall be quite frank. A report of most alarming nature has reached me.
And what has it to do with me?
It seems that you are scheming to marry my nephew, Mr. Darcy.
Oh,
Of course I know a scandalous falsehood. Such alliance is impossible.
but if you find it impossible, I wonder why you took the trouble of coming so far.
I insist that you deny the report at once.
Indeed.
Do you deny it? Has my nephew made you an offer of marriage?
But your ladyship has just said it's impossible.
Miss Bennet, I am Mr. Darcy's nearest relative, and what concerns him deeply concerns me.
But you are no relative of mine and have no right into bullying me into answering your questions.
Mr. Darcy is engaged to my daughter.
Well, if that is true, then you should have no reason to suppose he will ask me to marry him.
Impossible, girl. Think twice before you marry someone so far above you. My daughter has family, connections, a fortune. You have nothing. Such a marriage would be a disgrace.
But Mr. Darcy's a gentleman and I am a gentleman's daughter. So far, we are equal.
Tell me once and for all, are you engaged to him or not?
I am not.
And you promise me to never enter in such an engagement.
I will make no such promise.
This is your final resolve? Very well. I now know how to act. Do not imagine, Miss Bennet, your ambition to guard Mr. Darcy will ever be gratified.
Aunt Catherine! Since Miss Elizabeth is too polite to ask you to leave her house, I must ask you to go.
My dear Darcy, if you'd heard the pretensions of the upstart girl.
At once!
I take no leave of you. I send your mother no compliments. You deserve no such attentions.
Oh, Mr. Darcy, that you should have come upon such a scene.
It gives me courage to hope that there may still be a chance for me. Is there, Miss Elizabeth?
You have done so much for me, for my family. Lydia told me.
I asked her not to mention it. In a way, I'm to blame for not having told you of Wickham's true character.
But I wouldn't let you tell me anything. It was you who brought Mr. Bingley back here, wasn't it?
I was wrong to take him away. Believe me, I hadn't realized the strength of Jane's attachment for him, and of his for her.
My behavior to you has been unpardonable from the very beginning.
It was my behavior that was unpardonable. My abominable pride.
And my abominable prejudice. When I think of the things I said to you, I despise myself.
Am I still the last man in the world whom you could ever be prevailed upon to marry?
Oh, how you must hate me!
Is there no possible way in which I can tempt you to accept me?
Please don't, I'm wretched.
Beautifully wretched. Elizabeth, I love you.
Oh, Mr. Darcy.
Will you do me the great honor of becoming my wife?
Yes, Mr. Darcy. My father, if you wish to ask him, is in his library.
I shall ask him at once.
Lizzie, I'm so happy!
Can I guess the reason?
Miss Jane has promised to become my wife.
Papa's in the library.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Mama, I'm going to marry Mr. Bingley.
Oh, my dear Jane! Oh, how happy I am. I shall not get a wink of sleep tonight. He is the most handsomest man I've ever seen. Oh, you're my favorite daughter.
He believed I was indifferent to him. That's why they left Netherfield so suddenly.
That should teach you not to be so modest, Jane.
Oh, it's far too much. Why isn't everyone so happy?
Oh, my dear, your future sons-in-law.
Mr. Darcy, too!
Yes, Mama. I have loved him for a very long time.
Oh, Lizzie.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, just think. Oh, who would have thought? Go, Mr. Darcy and Lizzie, you're my favorite daughter.
Thank you for your good wishes, Mama.
You will excuse us if we walk in the garden?
Yes.
Oh, please.
Well, if any men come for Mary or Kitty, send them in. I'm quite at leisure.
Mr. Bingley and Jane, who was born £5,000 a year, and Lizzie with this house in town and £10,000 a year. Oh, Mr. Bennet, where are you? Mr. Bennet, did you not hear